Good day, grade 11s. My name is Kaden Madzokere. I'm the author and publisher of the Distinction Bound Student Textbooks, and welcome to a lesson on price elasticity. Now, in this lesson, we're going to look at utility. After utility, we'll go on to price elasticity of demand. Then we go to price elasticity of supply. Then we go to income elasticity of demand. Then we conclude with cross elasticity. Okay. So let's get started. Now, the concept of utility, we introduced it in grade 10, and you might need to watch that video because there I go deeper with utility. We even cover the characteristics of utility, but here we hit it on the surface. And what we will mainly focus on here is elasticity. Okay, so it refers to the satisfaction received from consuming a good or a service, or I can say also refers to the ability of a good to satisfy, because satisfaction does not, utility is not really satisfaction. Let me put it that way. So we can also phrase it that way, okay? Because this sort of assumes then that utility is satisfaction, but it's not. Right, then the next one is the additional satisfaction a consumer gains from consuming one more unit of a good or service. So whenever we talk about one additional unit, you must know that we're referring to marginal something. Okay, marginal revenue, that's the money you get for selling one additional unit. Marginal cost, that's the cost incurred for producing one additional unit. So in this case, it's marginal utility because that's the additional satisfaction. Now, the next one is what marginal utility is when the consumption of an additional unit increases total utility. Well, that's positive marginal utility. And obviously, number 4, that would be negative marginal utility. Okay, number 5, there is a law in economics that states that as a person increases consumption of a product while keeping other things constant, ceteris paribus, where there is a decline in the marginal utility that a person derives from consuming each additional unit of that particular product. Well, that's the law of diminishing marginal utility. I'm going to show you just now, but I'll show you after doing these 3, 6, 7, 8. Right, when marginal utility declines, total utility, well, this is a question that, someone would say total utility declines, and it's actually wrong because it increases. I'll show you just now. So marginal utility, well, we expect it to decline because of the law that we just mentioned here, the law of diminishing marginal utility. When it does not decline, it seems like something is wrong. So we actually expect it to decline. But now, the thing is, you are confusing. Yeah, it may decline from 10 to 8, but what happens to total utility? It will increase. You'll see just now. When marginal utility reaches 0, total utility is maximized. It will have reached its maximum level. When marginal utility becomes negative, total utility begins to decline. So we can just say total utility declines. Let me show you what we're talking about. Okay, so this is number of pizza slices consumed. As we increase consumption, do you see what happens to marginal utility? It diminishes. So before eating pizza, marginal utility is 0. The first slice would be 18. So a person would want to pay money for it, 16. But do you see what's happening there? It diminishes. But let's look at total utility. What happens? When this one decreases, this one increases total utility because now it's 18 and 16 put together. That's 34. Then now slice number 3, there's utility, even though it diminishes. But to look at what happens to total utility, it goes up. Okay. However, this happens until 0. So at 0, this becomes our maximum utility. Actually, at 9, maximum. So no one would be willing to pay money for a unit that possesses no utility. So you wouldn't want to purchase this one. So this consumer would most likely buy 9, but maybe not. It depends also on their budget. It depends also on, the fact that there are other goods out there that could be 18. A good example would be a cold drink, because pizza would go well. So a cold drink would complement pizza, so it would go well with pizza. So you might find out that a consumer might purchase 5 slices of pizza, and then because this now is an 8, maybe the cold drink is already a 15, right? So if the cold drink is a 15, well, there are people like me. I cannot eat without drinking, so I have to be drinking a cold drink whenever I'm eating. So for me, instead of spending money on the 6th slice, which has an 8, I'd rather buy a cold drink which has a 15. But well, since utility is subjective, for me, a cold drink can never be a 15 if one slice of pizza is an 18. They'll be neck to neck. So it will also be 18. So one slice of pizza, 1 can of cold drink. The second slice, I can have third, fourth, like that, depending also on my budget. And that's something we're going to talk about. So my goal is to maximize my utility. So if I get a slice of pizza, I need a cold drink, because already that's 18 plus 18. So for me, a cold drink is more worth than a second slice. Trust me. I'll be fine with 1 slice of pizza and a can. I'll be fine with that. Yes, I might need these ones because they still possess utility and I'm valuing them. But because I'm valuing the cold drink more than the other slices of pizza, I'll make sure that I have a cold drink first. Okay. So basically that's that. So I think you get it. So if we come back to this part now, that says when marginal utility declines, total utility increases. Now it makes sense. When marginal utility reaches 0, total utility is maximized. When marginal utility becomes negative, total utility declines. Okay, look here. When it reaches 0, right, then it's maximized. Even there it's maximized. Then negative, it starts to decline. So now slice number 12. If you were forced to have slice number 11, you wouldn't like it. It's actually a negative. It's better off not to have it than having it, right? Imagine if that was hard, eating slice number 12. What do you think about number 11? What do you think about number 12? Well, number 12 will be very much terrible. It will be, like you are too full. Maybe it's a negative 10. So this will go down to 78. Because this could make you vomit because you are full. So at the end of the day, it will look more like this. So if we look at marginal utility, do you see what's happening to it? It's diminishing in blue there. It goes down. But as it diminishes, what's happening to total utility? It increases. Then what happens when it reaches 0? Total utility is maximized. Now it's going to start to go down. Look, now it's going down. If we proceed to slice number 12, this one would go down. So as we increase, it will go down. So a consumer, this is useful because a consumer uses this to make decisions on what to buy and what not to buy. Okay. Right. Where are we? When consumers make choices, well, they make choices because what? They have resources are not in abundance. There is scarcity of resources, so we have to make choices. And we learned that the items we do not choose, the cost of the next best thing that is forgone. That's our opportunity cost. So when consumers make choices about the quantity of goods and services to consume, it is presumed that their objective is to maximize total utility. But consumers don't walk in a shop with a calculator calculating their utility. This is subconscious. They know that I want to maximize my utility. No, they don't know, but subconsciously, that's what they want. And when we study this, we're studying microeconomics because It's the study of human behavior. So it's a beautiful subject that we're doing here, because it makes us understand consumer behavior. Like what? So if we understand consumer behavior, we can anticipate. So if we can anticipate, we can forecast. So we can tell people ahead of time that our economy is going to do this, our economy is going to do this, and we know this because we have studied human behavior. So it's a very beautiful subject. Now, in maximizing total utility, the consumer faces a number of constraints, the most important of which the consumer's budget and the prices of the goods and services. Now, the budget is, of course, determined by your income, and the price now is an objective concept because you have no control over it, right? Now, the consumer's effort to maximize total utility subject to these constraints is referred to as the consumer's problem. Then the solution to the consumer's problem, which entails decisions about how much the consumer will consume of a number of goods and services, is referred to as consumer equilibrium. Now, the law of, is a microeconomic law that states all other things equal, ceteris paribus. As the price of a good or service increases, consumers' demand for, that's the law of demand. Okay, so number 13, that's the law of demand. The number 14 is an economic term referring to the change in behavior that buyers, now we are shifting, that buyers and sellers have in response to the price change for a good or service. Well, now that's price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand, number 14. Number 15, the quantity of a good or service reacts to price changes. The quantity of a good or service reacts to price changes, and the degree to which it reacts determines how elastic or inelastic it is. Okay. So it means that certain goods are more elastic than certain goods, and the reason varies. There are a couple of factors that determine how elastic a product is. Well, one of them is availability of substitutes. Well, when a good has many substitutes, it tends to be more elastic than a good that has fewer substitutes. For instance, a burger that you could buy from Burger King is more elastic than electricity, because electricity may have substitutes, but those substitutes are not as close to electricity, actually, because electricity does way too many other things that those substitutes may not be able to do. So electricity even causes traffic, so its absence is a headache. If electricity was very easy to substitute, farmers that lost a lot of their livestock last year, when load shedding was insane, they would have substituted that. So they lost a lot of I'm sure you saw on the TV farmers pouring out milk, farmers throwing away chicken because they died, because they couldn't get air conditioning. All that stuff tells you that electricity is quite unique. So its price change does not do much to quantity demanded, because consumers generally do not have many options. But consumers have way too many options when it comes to something like a burger from Burger King, because there are way too many other things that a person can eat. They can also eat a burger again in the same shop. So if there is an increase in demand in price for a double whopper at Burger King, well, a person would buy a single, or a person would go to McDonald's and buy, a McFeast, a Big Mac, a Mac chicken. Now, can you substitute that with something that's not a burger? Yes, you can go to Nando's and buy a full chicken. So, or you can go to ShopRite and buy bread and eggs and cheese and go make a sandwich at home. So there are so many things you can do in a replacement for, for a burger at Burger King. So it makes that demand curve highly elastic, and it makes the electricity one relatively inelastic. It won't though be perfectly inelastic. Well, you understand it just now because I'll show you as we draw them. Okay. So, is an economic term used to describe the situation in which the quantity of a good or service is unaffected when the price of a good or service changes. Well, this will be perfectly inelastic. And number 17, price elasticity of demand can be distinguished into 5 categories, namely, well, we have 2 extremes. I might start with 1 and end with 1 and have something in between. Well, the first degree would be perfectly inelastic. So that will be vertical. You'll see it just now. So it will be a vertical demand curve. So we say that it's perfectly inelastic. Right, the next one would be, what can I say? This is inelastic perfectly, so I'll take relatively inelastic. This one is close to perfectly inelastic. So the one for electricity would be here. Then the third one is right in between the other two, the 5, right in the middle. That's unitary elastic. Basically, this one means that when price goes up by 50%, quantity demanded is expected to drop by 50%. When price drops by 50%, we expect quantity demanded to also increase by 50%. Obviously, ceteris paribus. Then the fourth one is, we're going to the other extreme, right? So this is now relatively elastic. This is relatively inelastic. So this becomes relatively elastic. Then the last one would be perfectly elastic. Yes, elastic to infinite. We'll see how it looks like. Right, so the formula for calculating price elasticity of demand is, price elasticity of demand is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. Now, master this formula because it's more or less the same for calculating price elasticity of supply and also income elasticity of demand and also cross elasticity of demand. It'll all start with a percentage change in quantity demanded. Then the other one will be percentage change in quantity supplied. The other one will be percentage change in demand for a specific product, because this one we would try to see if that particular product is a normal good or an inferior good. So it will be percentage change in quantity demanded for that particular product, right? Divided by percentage change in income. For cross elasticity, it will be percentage change in quantity demanded for good A, for good A, right? Divided by percentage change in what? Demand for good B. So with cross elasticity, we just want to see the relationship of goods. But anyways, let me not give you too much because we are going to go to that just now. So if a small change in price is accustomed by a large, so that means this thing is basically elastic or relatively elastic. A small change in price, yes, yeah. So this item is like the burger, or responsive to price change, yeah. Conversely, a product is if a large change in price is inelastic, relatively. If the price elasticity of demand is equal to 0, that means there is no movement. Then demand is perfectly inelastic. If it's equal to 0, values between 0 and 1 indicate that demand is inelastic. This occurs when the percentage change in demand is less than the percentage change in price. So it's inelastic. Then when price elasticity of demand equals to 1, then that's unitary elastic. Demand is unitary elastic. Why did I put this word? Because that's the answer. Then if the value is greater than 1, demand is. If the value is greater than 1, then demand is elastic. Then when a small change in price of a product causes a major, okay, this is very much elastic. So here, I think what I wanted was perfectly elastic, but also relatively elastic also makes sense. Right, then a dash inelastic demand curve uh, is 1 when there is no change. No change, then that's perfectly inelastic. Okay, when there is no change whatsoever, it's the same as this one, equal to 0, no change. Then here, a dash elastic demand refers to demand when the proportionate change produced in demand is greater than the proportionate change in price. Again, this one can be perfectly elastic, can also be relatively elastic. Then 27, dash inelastic demand is 1 when percentage change produced in demand is less than the percentage change in the price of a product. Well, this one we are relatively inelastic. It's more like same thing. When the proportionate change in demand produces the same, then that's unitary again. Right, so you should be able to draw them. This is when you now understand what we were talking about. Okay, this is when you should be able to draw them. Which one is unitary, which one is relatively elastic, relatively inelastic, and so on. So for this one to make more sense, I'm going to show you how they would look like. But before we do, let's just recap our answers. We said yes, unitary. Utility refers to the satisfaction. Then marginal utility is the additional satisfaction. Then positive marginal utility is when consumption of an additional item increases the total utility. The negative marginal utility is when the consumption of an additional item decreases the total utility. Then the law of diminishing marginal utility is the law of economics stating that as a person increases consumption of a product while keeping others constant, then what do you happen? Yes, just continue there. I've covered this, so just see increases, maximized, decreases, maximize, budget, consumer's problem, consumer equilibrium, the law of demand, price elasticity of demand, elastic or inelastic, inelastic, and then our 5 degrees, perfectly and perfectly. So that time I had started, yes, with perfectly inelastic, then it goes to relatively inelastic or just inelastic demand, then unitary, then relatively elastic or just elastic demand, then perfectly elastic. So the difference here is that this is perfectly, then these are relatively. Okay. Then the formula once again, percentage change in quantity demanded. Okay, I should add demanded here, divided by percentage change in price. I should remember to do that. Could it be this one? Yes. I hope I'll find it. Okay, let me see. Percentage change in quantity demanded. Okay. Yes, percentage change in quantity demanded. Let me save this. Yeah. So that will be that. Let me just minimize it and continue. So yeah, this will be changed. Right, then a small change that's elastic, inelastic, perfectly inelastic because it's equal to 0, inelastic. So you can pause and try to, read, understand. You can just pause, then you will understand. So some things, yes, we are repeating them. We're saying them in a slightly different way so that they cannot sneak up on you in an exam. You'll still understand what they are saying. Okay. Now, let's study this one. So what we see here is that this demand curve is perfectly elastic. When let's say when price goes up, let's say from 30 to to 40. Now it'll be the same for all these units. Basically, this indicates that whatever firm this is, the firm is a price taker, because this firm has no influence on price. So it takes the same market price that is determined by the industry. So forces of demand and supply in the industry would determine the price of 30 Rand. This firm is a price taker. He will sell 100 units and 200 and 300 units at the same price because he's simply a price taker. He cannot increase price or decrease. Decreasing, it won't make sense for him because his goal is to maximize profit. So he will sell at the same price at different quantities. So basically his demand curve is perfectly elastic. All prices would be, all quantities would be sold at the same market price. This one here would be something like a matter of life and death. I'll give you an example of a heart transplant. So if your heart was failing and to get a heart transplant, it costs, let's say, 20,000 rands. Would you get a heart transplant? Well, yes, you would. What happens if the price of heart transplants go up to 30,000 rands? Well, it won't affect quantity demanded. It will stay the same because the people who go for heart transplants would get it regardless of the price, because this is a matter of life and death. So a person would rather leave than save 10,000, because you save 10,000, then what are you going to do when you're dead? So a person will have it because they want to leave. So what the price is, whether it's cheap or expensive, it will not affect quantity demanded. So we say this is perfectly inelastic, unresponsive. So price elasticity of demand will be equal to 0. Here, price elasticity of demand will be equal to infinite. This sign means that. Well, relatively elastic. Well, do you see that this one is close to this, and this one is close to this? If you see it, yes. Look, inelastic, inelastic. The difference, this is perfectly. The difference, this is perfectly. So this one slopes more than this one slopes. And this one is close to this. You see, something like this. And very far from this, look. Very far. But this one is closer to this. See? So they are both inelastic, these two. These ones are both elastic. But the difference is this one is perfectly. This one is perfectly. This one is relatively. This one is relatively. That's the difference. But what does it mean though? Well, it means that if price goes down by this percentage here, check this gap and compare it with this. Look at this arrow and compare it with this arrow. This arrow is bigger, so this thing is responsive, so it's elastic. Now, same applies. A big change in price, look, from 20 to 10, in this case, causes a small change from 100 to 120. So percentage-wise, from 20 to 10, it went down by 50%. Percentage-wise, this went up by 20%. Percentage-wise, this went down by 50%. This went up by 100%. So this becomes elastic, this becomes inelastic. Right, then unitary, it will go up or down by the same magnitude. See, it went down by 50%, this went up by 50% because it went from 100 to 150. Here it went from 100 to 120, that's less than this, but this is more. So this is more elastic, this is less elastic, this is more elastic than this because 120, 150, but this is 200, that's even more. But to the same magnitude, 20 to 10, 20 to 10, 20 to 10. What makes the difference is how elastic each demand curve is. So basically that's that. Now, if you understand this one, you can also understand the supply one. But I would want you to see the difference. First, before we go to the supply one, I want you to see that these are the two extremes. And what we have is anything between. So a demand curve is either horizontal, vertical, or downward sloping. Do you see that it can never be upward sloping? It can never. There is no demand curve here that is upward sloping. This is just vertical. It's not upward sloping because it's perfectly inelastic. Upward sloping means like this, going up. From 0 to 100, if something is upward sloping, it will be like this. Okay, it will be like this. But from 0 to 100, if something is downward sloping, then it will be like this. So all these demand curves are downward sloping. But the ones that are not downward sloping, they are horizontal and vertical. Only these two. And these are the extreme cases. We have nothing beyond this. This is all the 5 degrees. Okay. Well, we have one other thing though. There's what we call a kinked demand curve. It's basically a demand curve with 2 degrees of elasticity. Well, we won't talk about it now, okay? But we wouldn't say, because still, it's a demand curve basically that has this and this together. So still, it's downward sloping at the end of the day. It goes downwards. It is not upward sloping. Okay, so I won't shift to that one with no answers. I will do it later. Maybe I'll just conclude with this like this. Okay, so price elasticity of supply is a measure. So this is now the same thing, same concept. So I won't spend time here because we already understand. So elasticity basically is how responsive is demand or supply to a change in price, basically. So the price elasticity of supply is a measure of the degree of change in the supplied amount of a commodity in response to the change in the commodity's price. So in simple words, it is defined as the rate of change in supply in response to the change in price or the price change. And the formula is just similar to that one. The only difference is here we say supplied. So percentage change in quantity supplied divided by percentage change in price. Okay. Maybe I might have shown you a few calculations, then you would understand. But it's coming later though. I'll scroll downwards and have you see it. Right, so we also have 2 degrees. So do you see that this graph is identical to these two? They look the same. Only difference, see here it says D. And when we come here, it says S. So when you see S, then you know it's perfectly elastic supply. So here it will be ES is equal to infinite, just like we said here, ED. So this stands for the demand, this stands for supply. Some would write this as PES and the top one as PED. Just know what it means. It simply means price elasticity of supply. The other one, price elasticity of demand. Simple. Right, so when it's equal to 0, just like that one on demand, then it's perfectly inelastic, but supply, not demand. And we'll put an S here. Okay. Then, like I said, all supply curves are upward sloping. You'll never see a supply curve that's downward sloping. But you always see 2 extreme cases, one that's perfectly elastic, one that's perfectly inelastic. And then here, price goes up by 50% from 10 to 15, but quantity demanded goes up, quantity supplied, goes up by 100%. That means this is relatively elastic. Now here, the same magnitude from 10 to 15, it goes up by 50%, but the supply goes up by 20%. So this is inelastic. The response is tiny. The response is big. But here, the response is the same. From 10 to 15, from 100 to 150. So the percentage change here is equal to 1, or it's equal. Here, it's less than 1. So if you calculate, if you say percentage change in quantity demanded, okay, we can do it actually. I said I didn't show you calculations. So if you look at this formula, percentage change in quantity supplied, in this case, we are going to say what? Let's see, 50%, that's the percentage change in price. But remember, we start with quantity. Look, quantity goes on top. So you take this figure here, which is 20. So 20% divided by 50%. That would be what? That would be 0. That would be 2.5. 20, 40, yeah, 2.5. So it's greater than 1. So it's what? It's inelastic. Here, it'll be 100, right? Okay, so it's 100 divided by 50. So that'll be 100 divided by 50, it's 0.5. So that means, am I right though? 100 divided by 0, that's, oh, okay. I'm doing the opposite. 100 divided by 0 by 50, my God. That'll be 2. 2. Yeah, that's greater than 1. Here, it's 20 divided by... Oh, so 20 is the one on top. Okay, that's the mistake I make. You see the thing of calculating from the head. So it will be 20 over what? Over 50. So 50 into 20 is 0. 50 into 204. So the answer here will be 0.4. Here the answer is 2. So since it's 2, then it's elastic. Since it's 0 point, it's less than 1, then it's inelastic. My bad. Sorry. Right, then these are the factors. I think I spoke about them when I was telling you. So, I didn't show you. So a burger would look more like this. If the price of a burger drops, more people would want to buy burgers. If the price of electricity drops, yeah, we consume slightly more electricity, not way more electricity. The reason is because what else do we do? The thing we do when electricity becomes cheaper is we don't go through the stress of switching off the geyser, things like that. We can leave the geyser on throughout because, well, we don't need to switch it off and on because we can afford it. But when price goes up, still, we consume slightly less because we still have to use it because this thing is quite unique and it's a need. So we consume less by waking up early, switching on the geyser. When we're done bathing, we switch it off. So basically, there's nothing much we can do. We can substitute, but with just a few things. Yeah. Right. So to conclude, these are the factors that determine price elasticity of demand. And so we can just have a look. Substitute possibilities, the degree of complementarity, meaning if a good is a complement and its price goes down or up, well, it will be, it will determine how elastic the product will be. A good example is salt. Salt complements so many goods, right? Like most of the time when we cook, we make use of salt, and we make use of salt a lot. So because it complements, well, we will buy it regardless. So it will be less elastic. So it will look like this. It will look like this. Like this. Yes. All right. And then the type of one satisfied. Yeah, if it's a need actually, well, it will be less elastic. If it's just something for pleasure, not so important, then it will be more elastic. The time period under consideration, and lastly, the proportion of income spent on the product. Right, I was gonna say, let me do this in a different video. Maybe that would make sense because I think my video is already long, quite long. It's 38 minutes. I barely do videos this long. So I'll conclude here. Then the next part of it will be in the next video. Well, thank you so much, grade 11s. God bless.